Everybody, welcome back to Keeping Up with the Seattle Kraken. I'm gonna not tempt the fates with jokes about suing so that it doesn't actually happen. Your weekly Seattle Kraken show on Circling Seattle Sports with Silvia, Jade, and myself. If you don't know me, I am Charles. You either tend to love me or hate me. That is kind of where Twitter is at with me. So, we only had one game from last Monday to this Monday. This is being recorded on the 29th, but the show goes out on Mondays. It was the holiday break, and the show would be a very different tone if the Kraken had lost 4-1 as the score had gone in the game against the Vancouver Canucks. Um, uh, I know that there are two things I want to point out before I get fully like into kind of recounting the acid trip that was that game. I want to say that Jade did say last show that the weird 1 o'clock start time, because that game started at 1 o'clock. It was in Vancouver, obviously. If you don't know time zones, we're in the same one as Vancouver. Um, and the Kraken just historically don't really play well in those odd start times. They just don't. Even at home or away against good teams, against bad teams, it doesn't tend to matter. Seattle just, oh, it's not at 7. Ouchie, I can't play hockey. And I'm like, oh. Um, they played like not great. How they had for matinee games normally for like all but I would think 55 minutes of the hockey game before overtime, right? And then they figured it out. And I will also point out that Silvia did say that she has kept general hope and optimism alive that I have not. So credit to both of you for those 2 points. But yeah, I mean Seattle went into this game the day before they had a practice. Joey Decord um was not able to play in this game. He's dealing with a upper body injury, which we'll talk about after the Vancouver game. Andre Burakovsky was out with an illness, so you were without those two guys, which without Berkey doesn't seem to matter that much. Philip Grubauer had a good game. He was, I mean, at least largely the reason that this wasn't a larger score, and the reason that this comeback was even really possible for Seattle. Um, there was a time in the game where Vancouver did have a fifth goal, but it was taken away because Dakota Joshua pawed at the puck. I say paw. I don't know if he's a furry. He gloved at the puck and pushed it in. So that was taken off the board. And the final 5 minutes, I don't know what happened, but the Kraken decided they wanted to play hockey. They scored 3 goals in 5 minutes. Jaden Schwartz um, had two of them. The first one to bring it within two, just nice one right off of Demko from an odd angle. The second one, Vince Dunn was able to take the Kraken were able to take advantage of a turnover in the Vancouver zone, which normally that happens to them. They have goals scored against them because of turnovers in their own zone. Um, and then Jaden Schwartz, I think it was with a minute and 12 left after they scored that third goal. It was really weird. I was watching this game on my phone and I just kind of accepted that they had lost, and I was already doing something around 4:30 anyway. Jaden Schwartz kind of made a mad dash himself to the crease, and even though there were about four Canucks around him, in addition to Thatcher Demko, was able to put home his own rebound. And Seattle goes into the overtime period. Vince Dunn scores all alone. He was talking about it post game. He was hoping that Chandler Stevenson would follow the play so he could drop it off to him, but Stevenson told him that you've got this. So Vince had to deal with it on his own. He did. He won it. But yeah, that was an absolutely um I guess we'll start it off this way. That shit crazy game for Seattle to win. I had really just marked it as a sixth straight loss. Even with um Vancouver not having Quinn Hughes or Elias Pettersson, they just got outmuscled. Sylvia had some thoughts on it during the game about how, there was discourse about Philip Grubauer, which there always will be, no matter what. He could, save a burning baby from a burning hospital, and he would still, someone would bring up his save percentage. I don't know, Yeah, this was just crazy. It's still hard to fathom. Uh, Sylvia, I know you were looking at it. We'll start the rotation with you. What are your thoughts on this game? Whatever it may be, vibes wise, stats wise, any of that. We'll go to Jade, and then we'll come back to me to move on to the next topic. But yeah, this game was just. I don't know how many games I've ever seen like this. This was a historic game because of the comeback that Seattle made. Yeah, I don't know. What can you put into words about this win over Vancouver to snap the losing streak?
Um, I think my big takeaway is that people need to have whimsy. This is a mini rant that I've been preparing all day. Okay. I there's that one tweet that goes around a lot that's like, sports are meant to suffer with a group of people, which truly, yeah. But I do think that, people are such Debbie Downers these days about their sports team. And like the moment their team, we're like top of the second period, your team is down, you still have like 30 minutes of this game to go. These people know how to play the game, usually. Not all the time, but usually they do. So I think it's like for me, it's often frustrating to see people like, oh, like sell the team, sell the team. We have like a whole two and a half, like a half a period to go. Let's relax. Which we saw with the Kraken, fully recovered. I do blame this fully on sports betting, which is my rant. I think people are such like Debbie Downers and just get so frustrated and they get so angry the moment that their team, you know, isn't up by like first 2 minutes of the game because of sports betting. And I think that's just the sports betting culture that has been cultivated around sports in general. That's my big thought. My my smaller thought around that. I think we have underestimated. No, that's not true. I think we have estimated the Kraken to their potential very, very well. I don't think you can underestimate or overestimate the Kraken as they are now. But one thing, I didn't tweet this on my personal, but I did tweet this in Spanish. The Canucks without Quinn Hughes, without um, their top goal scorers, they are basically the Kraken of the North. So the game throughout before the Kraken really showed up, it was pretty much like par for par. The shots were par for par. The time in each other's offensive zone was par for par. It was all very balanced, I would say. Obviously, the goals weren't, and that's what most people will look at is the goals because that's how you win. But I think in terms of you know where the skill set of each team was pretty balanced. I do think at that point before the Kraken exploded, the Canucks wanted it more. And I'm sure a big part was that, Quinn Hughes wasn't there. You got to kind of show up for your captain. If your captain isn't on the team, you're going to want to play a little bit better. That's a big part of missing your captain. Don't know why the Kraken don't do it. Their captain's been gone for however long. I feel like that should, bolster them. But I do think throughout just the response of the fans, super Debbie Downer. I think the Kraken do this thing, and I see it. I think we see it pretty much every game where they will be down, and then the last 20 seconds of every period, they wake up and they start shooting and they start shooting, and then the last 5 games they lost, but they were still doing that. If the Kraken could just hold that consistently, a full 60 minutes, we would be in such a better position. Probably not in the playoff position. Our players aren't that good, but we would be in just a better happiness, optimism for the players, for the team, for everyone. I did want to point out Vince Dunn, kind of my favorite person during that entire game, other than Grubauer. I got to give my flowers because I did say that. I think he did, he was our most consistent, our strongest player all 60 minutes. But I think Vince Dunn, the Kraken always play better when Vince Dunn is playing well, when Vince Dunn is on the ice. If I remember correctly, and Mr. Statsman, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think he is on pace to improve or hit his career high of 2022-23, which I think is 14 goals. So if he keeps playing the same way he has in the last 6 games, he'll hit that super quick. which is exciting because even if your team isn't playing well, at least we're hitting these milestones for these players and we're able to celebrate that along with them. Jade, I'll pass it on to you. Pass it.
Um, I am gonna be honest, I napped through the game on accident. Um, and so when I fell asleep, I don't know, it was maybe halfway through the first period. And then I woke up to the game going into overtime. So I went back and turned on the last 6 minutes and then got super distracted and didn't end up actually watching the last 6 minutes. But from the clips that I've seen, the game looked great. I saw a lot of praise for Dunn and Grubauer, and um, I had also just kind of written it off as, like Charles said, like, okay, cool, this is going to be the sixth loss in a row. Um, and that just kind of, I don't know, is what it is. So I was happy to see that they'd won when I woke up. So I have nothing really, unfortunately, for the game yesterday. I didn't mean to take a nap, but I was hungover, so
I'm assuming the Kraken
Um,
too with the way they played.
yeah.
maybe. I mean, I don't. No, I went to go and look for Vince Dunn's. The what I was. I don't know if that was meant to me or if we have another man in the room. Um, but I mean, he's. You could argue that he's probably going to surpass that. I mean, he's only played 17 games this year. He's got 7 goals. Um, and his career high in goals, the 22-23 season was 14. He got that in 81 games. I mean, if you take it on that pace, which obviously pace doesn't always, play out all the time, he'd probably score at least like 20, which I don't expect from Vince Dunn. It would be great, be wonderful. But yeah, I mean, when he's been on the ice for Seattle, he's been pretty invaluable. I mean, it's funny. You don't want to justify stupid people, right? But uh, even by like looking at them or acknowledging them, there's an account on Twitter that is at Trade Vince Dunn, and I'm like, wow, we're stupid, aren't we? Like, we don't really understand the whole hockey thing, right? Like, I just was fascinated by it because and I think I might have talked about this in one of the earlier episodes. Um, and obviously, no one person's word is like gold. But I was talking to Everett Fitzhugh, and we were talking about it earlier in the season. And I said, which players on this roster can do no wrong? Like they mess up, they have one mess up, and like, oh, it's fine. Like I understand it. Your value is far too great for me to like hold this too much against you. The list was something like Joey Decord, Jared McCann, but he said Vince Dunn when he's not doing stupid shit. And Vince can do, there are times where he gets riled up. I think that's a fair thing to say, right? Um, including pointing at his face after it might have been whacked at a little bit or bloody. Um, yeah, no, it's just really remarkable too that the two guys who had the multi-point games in Jaden Schwartz and Vince Dunn are guys who have obviously been around each other for a while, in St. Louis and now here. Um, and that was something that Vince talked about. And it was funny too. If you look at the video of Vince celebrating, he goes right into Jaden Schwartz's arms. Um, I'm sure hockey Twitter will have fun with that, or already had fun with that. Um, yeah, no, I would agree with what Sylvia says on that. It's like you need to the both things. The sports betting is a terrible cancerous thing because if you look at the Kraken social like the Kraken accounts tweets during the bad part of the game, it's just people saying unhinged, like totally inappropriate things. And it's usually because their parlay bet was like dependent on the Kraken. First of all, you need help. Second of all, if you are betting on the Seattle Kraken in a positive way, you need extra help. I what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, third of all, delete your account. Touch grass, touch mud at that point. I don't know. Um, yeah,
Really
I don't know.
reconnect with the earth in ways no one's ever
Yes,
connected
connect with
before.
the earth. Get
Oh,
6 feet below. I'm okay. We're gonna continue. Uh, um, yeah, I don't know. It was just really fascinating. to see this game, and I really do hope, that this is the spark of something. There were several points in the season where I had hoped, a win or a few wins could turn things around. I'd hoped maybe that stretch of early December when we started this show, when they had points in like 5 of 6, and that wasn't true, was it? At the last few weeks before the holiday break, that didn't end up being it. And if you want to even kind of bring it into more reality, yeah, you beat a team without Quinn Hughes, without EP. So, um, yeah, that kind of brings us into something that was related, but not necessarily too related because he didn't play in it. But the reason he didn't play was the injury. Joey Decord.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey. Where are you going to watch all those Kraken away games?
Kraken away games, making a push. I was thinking of coming here just because Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, only if that's okay with you.
I mean, I love that idea. Hope to see you here.
Hello there, everybody. Charles Hamaker here with Circling Seattle Sports. I'm joined by Jen Barnes of Rough and Tumble that we happen to be at right now.
Yeah.
Jen, why don't you talk to me a little bit about what we're announcing today, which is our partnership.
I'm so excited about this. First of all, I just want to say thank you. I think all of us here at Rough and Tumble are big fans of what you and your team at Circling Seattle Sports does. And so, I know you know this, but when you came to me with this idea, it just seemed pretty natural. And it's not just me. I think a lot of people in the sports community in Seattle also really respect you and your team. So it's exciting to kind of see these two things melding together, and we're really excited to start implementing some of the things and then hopefully seeing you guys a little bit more often.
Yeah, and so with what Jen says about seeing us more often, we've got a few things in the works, but you'll see watch parties here. We'd like to do a few different of our community drives, which you'll hear about here in a little bit from now. We've got to make our announcements one at a time. I can't drop everything.
Not everything
right.
all at once.
But this has been a home for a lot of our team, whether it's myself, our friend, our photographer Liz is behind the camera. Liz is here often, so our team has kind of adopted this place kind of like our own since I saw you at our soft launch. So, it's been great to have that support. And in a lot of ways, and part of the reason I wanted to do this was the Rough and Tumble embodies a lot of what Circling Seattle Sports wants to do. Obviously with women's sports, with the storm and the rain, but just being, having the game on, every game on.
Yep.
How much of that, did you see a line kind of even before this idea was mentioned when I first met you?
I think it's always felt like that. I mean, you and your team were here on opening night, and you just feel like you're part of the space, so it felt like really natural. And the fact that you actually cover all of the sports really makes your group stand out. So you are always covering all the rain games, all the storm games. You'd have women's softball, you'd have women's basketball, you'd have women's hockey. We love it. So all of those things, and obviously passionate M's fans, passionate Hawks fans, and passionate Kraken and Sounders fans. So really, from our perspective, those two things meshed really well.
So, you heard it from Jen herself, but this will be our home for all of these events, whether it's you can't make it to these games at home, we're always going to direct you to Rough and Tumble, and obviously the games on the road as well. All these, we're talking about the rain, they've got their schedule out finally, but this will be our home for that.
Great.
The storm games on the road, this is our home.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes.
I love it.
And when I mentioned it to Jen, when I first had this idea come up, I had this idea come up wearing a pink wig.
Yes, you did.
Ahead of Megan Rapinoe's final regular season home game for the Reign this past year.
Yeah.
I told her it's because I wanted this to feel genuine.
Yep.
I wanted a connection to feel genuine, and it does.
Yeah.
So that's what this is. Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, and I'm so excited to finally announce this partnership.
I can't wait.